Hello friends, I am Nisha Sharma. Today the topic we are discussing is in continuation with our previous video on critical appreciation of Eliot's Preludes. In this section we'll discuss the poetic devices and figurative language. In that, first we'll consider about personification. Personification plays a vital role in preludes, appearing at crucial points in each poem. The first lines of both poems, first and second, all conceive of times of day being conscious. The winter evening settles down as if it's somebody relaxing after a hard day at work, and the morning comes to consciousness like somebody waking up. The fact that it is the environment that is described as conscious stands in contrast to the description of the poem, description of people in the poem who are presented robot-like, or in poem third as possibly mad loners. It is as if the intelligence and independence normally associated with humans has been drained from them and taken up by the world around them instead. By point 4, the personification of the city has developed from simply being conscious to having a conscience. In other words, a moral code. This is like an animal transitioning into a human. Although apes have consciousness, there is little evidence they are developed enough to have a moral system. Not only does the state now have a conscience, it is also impatient to assume the world. This evokes the idea of God assuming the world in the form of Christ, and Christ then assuming the cross to redeem humankind. This staggering idea implies that the environment is not merely more conscious and more moral than its utterly dehumanized inhabitants, but that it is also like Christ in being potentially able to redeem human beings. Next poetic device that we can consider is vocabulary. Select any word below to get its definition in the context of the poem. The words are listed in the order in which they appear in the poem, like burnt out ends, vacant lots, consciousness, masquerade, shade, sordid vision, soil, insistent, assured, conscience, assume, fancies, infinitely. This refers to the stubs of cigarettes. Smoking cigarettes was looked down on as a working class habit at the time. Preludes was written with pipes and cigars, the preferred alternative of the middle and upper classes. In comparing the winter evening to the dirty, smoky, useless remains of a finished cigarette, this metaphor serves to emphasize the poem's conception of city life as sordid. Now, form. The clearest formal element of Preludes is the fact that it is organized into four separate poems, labeled first, second, third, and fourth. These different poems within the larger poem create a series of short scenes of modern urban life. Together, they all paint a picture of a dreary, isolating existence everywhere the speaker looks. But the shorter poems within preludes are all structured very differently, making the poem feel unpredictable and disjointed, even as all these sections essentially build towards the same idea of urban life as being miserable and lonely. Poem 1 has 13 lines split into two stanzas. Poem 2 has one stanza with 10 lines. Poem 3 has one stanza of 15 lines. And poem 4 has three stanzas of 9, 4, and 3 lines apiece. The difference in structure isolate the poems from each other, echoing the way in which city dwellers are alienated by urban life. Poem 1 can be split into three sections, the first from line 1 to 4, the next from line 5 to 12, and the last line is 13. The first, consisting of lines 1 to 4, gives the reader an overview of the scene. It takes place on a winter evening at 6 o'clock, a scene that can be summed up as the burnt out end of the day. The next chunk, line 5 to 12, goes into more detail about the goings on in this particular city at this particular time, focusing especially on what can be seen and heard. Line 13 then signifies the transition from evening to night, hence its separation from the main body of the stanza. Poem in the introduction point in the poem second, introduction of masquerades in line 19, the poem takes a turn from which it will explore what lies beneath the deceptive masquerade that have been its main subject up to this point. Poem third can be split into two sections. First, from line 24 to 29, takes place at night time, with the female character trying to sleep but being distracted by waking hallucinations. The second, from line 31 to 38, takes place as the sun rises, signifying morning. Point 4 is the most structured of the bunch, given that is broken up into pages. It is broken up on the page into three separate stanzas. The first returns to the city, alluding to Christian theology for the first time with the reference to a soul stretched tight across the sky. The second allows the speaker for the first and only time to speak in the first person, meaning lines 48 to 51 are at a further distance from the narrative than any other section of the poem. The final three lines of the poem return to the grubby sides of urban life. Meter. For the most part, the meter of Prelude is iambic tetrameter. Overall, this steady rhythm echoes the robotic repetitive behavior of city dwellers in the poem. Rhyme scheme. Preludes doesn't have a strict rhyme scheme, though its frequent use of assonance creates a lyrical, melodious sound throughout. That said, the poem does contain end rhymes here and there. Poem 1, for example, rhymes as follows: A, B, C, B, D, D, E, F, E, F, E, G, G. Now we come to the speaker of the prelude. The speaker of preludes is a distant, ambiguous figure, never given a name, age, gender, or profession. For most of the poem, the speaker does not appear at all, making these descriptions of city life seem more like objective reality rather than the observations of a specific person. That changes in line 48, where the first person pronoun I appears. I am moved by fancies that occur. This makes it clear that the prior lines are coming from a single person's perspective, though again, readers learn next to nothing about this person. All readers know is that the speaker seems to be a detached observer of city life, cataloging many small but telling details. These details, in turn, prompt the speaker to think of some infinitely gentle and infinitely suffering thing. In other words, thinking about the drudgery and isolation of modern life causes the speaker to feel a vague sense of sadness and unease. Now, the setting of the poem. The setting for Preludes is an anonymous modern city at various times of day. The city setting is grimy, filled with litter and smoky smell, and host to a population going thoughtlessly about its daily routine. The reader gets glimpses of dingy sheets and muddy feet, as well as a look into the room of an unnamed woman who is sitting on her unmade bed and staring at the ceiling. Overall, the atmosphere is filled with a sense of isolation and decay. The city is not a lively place, it is filled with dirt, grime, and loneliness. Eliot's depiction of city life seems remarkably contemporary. Anyone who lives in a large city today will surely recognize these tropes of people mindlessly trudging to get their coffee, of the stale smells of food and alcohol at the end of the day, and of the loneliness of an urban street late at night. Now, the literary and historical context of Preludes. First is literary context. Eliot wrote Preludes during a period of great literary experimentation at the start of the 20th century, a period known as modernism. Eliot wrote the poems that make up Preludes between the ages of 22 and 25. Initially published in the Blast in 1915, Preludes went on to be included in Eliot's first collection, Prufrock and Other Observations, in 1917. Eliot's models at this time were mainly French symbolist poets of the late 19th century. Eliot's descriptions of grubby city life in Preludes, combined with dreamlike, fantastic visions, was, was inspired by these French poets. As Eliot himself said, the kind of poetry that I needed to teach me the use of my own voice did not exist in English at all. It was only to be found in French. Now, historical context. Understanding modernism also relies on understanding the historical period in which it took place. The early 20th century was a time of immense change. New technologies such as the airplane and telephone had changed people's lives immensely in a short space of time. Urbanization was increasing as more and more people began moving from the countryside to the city in developed countries around the world. Most importantly, World War I had shattered the old European order. This made modernist artists deeply skeptical of the modern world, hence the critical depiction of the city in Prelude. And now is title of the poem. The word prelude comes from the French word that means note sung or played to test the voice or instrument. It was first used in the purely musical sense in English in the 1650s Oxford Dictionary. In this point, the title prelude could refer to any and all of these meanings. Testing the voice, a prelude to a longer work, before a play, or preface to a musical piece. Thank you.